Today's podcast is sponsored by AMAC, the only conservative alternative to that other group. You guys know what I'm talking about. Join today at amac.us/Carter. By the way, I saw Rebecca Weber at Mar-a-Lago. It just feels so weird when I say that. Like, I saw Rebecca Weber at Mar-a-Lago. I'm back in Texas in San Antonio. So whenever I go to Mar-a-Lago, we'll talk about that later on in the show. I always feel like I'm just like a fish out of water sometimes. But everybody there is fighting for America. And that is going to be what we are talking about on this show today. Our fight to keep our nation and its principles intact. And that is very, very important. Today's episode, we will be covering New York Governor Kathy Hochul's decision to veto a bipartisan bill that would actually create a fentanyl task force. Why would she want to veto that? Why would she want to veto a bill to create a fentanyl task force when we know so many of our citizens and our children are dying from this poison that is on our streets? We're going to talk about that. Why are prominent Democrats against keeping that deadly drug off our streets? I'll also cover how mainstream media outlets literally carried water for a Chinese-connected nonprofit that called a conservative congresswoman a racist. You guys, you can't make this stuff up. This is how integrated our nation has become enmeshed in China and the Chinese Communist Party. We have to keep our eyes wide open, because I truly believe our nation is under threat. And it's happening right now before our very eyes, but so many people are not seeing it. They're just not seeing it. Finally, I'll break down the deafening silence of ex-Intel officials. This is probably the piece that infuriates me the most. And I was on Steve Hilton about this, but how ex-Intel officials, John Brennan, Michael Hayden, Michael Morrell, yes, I tweeted to each and every one of them, not all 51, but to these three in particular, how they all claimed and lied to you. They lied to every single one of you. They lied to you about the laptop. They said that was more than likely Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. These are the top intelligence officials in the United States charged with our most secretive agencies, our spy agencies, the DNI, the CIA, the NSA. All of these officials, both establishment Republicans as well as Democrats, lied to you. And I'm infuriated because I truly believe that we, right now, the way we are set up in Washington, we have no real way of fighting back and holding them accountable for basically, I believe they were on the border of sedition and treason. They were lying. And this is election interference. And they didn't just do it this time. They did it throughout Trump's presidency. So no matter how you feel about Trump, these same people that we entrust with our lives, with our nation, with our national security, use the tools that were meant to be used against the enemy, against us, the American people. That's pretty frightening. And I don't understand it. And I don't understand why. Anyways, hey everyone, please follow and subscribe. Get all the links at saraacarter.com. That's saraacarter.com. And while you're there, I want you to sign up for our email list so that you don't get shadow banned. And this is very important because even though Elon Musk is now in charge of Twitter, we still have 2 more years till the 2024 presidential election. And believe you me, they are going to shadow ban, and they are going to want to keep you uninformed and keep us apart. And I'm not going to let that happen. So sign up for the email list so that we can stay in touch. Also, please subscribe to my new documentary podcast, Dark Wars, The Border. It has been getting rave reviews, and I know you'll love it as well. Visit our website at Dark Wars Pod, that's P-O-D, darkwarspod.com for the latest information. So what are we going to talk about? First, let me tell you about Mar-a-Lago. It's as amazing as everyone says. It really is. It's opulent. It's beautiful. It's in Palm Beach, for crying out loud. The weather there is perfect. It's like you've almost like kind of gone to heaven. It's this beautiful wind that was blowing through. It was 80 degrees. Sun was shining. There were so many people attending this American Freedom Tour event. And it was just incredible amount of people that were wanting to show support, not only for President Trump, but for our nation. This is truly about people getting together. There was also the Moms for America that were there, that were getting ready for their big celebration. And I was with them actually on Saturday night, the night before I went to New York. And I'll tell you all about that flight in a minute. That was kind of crazy because it took me all day to leave Mar-a-Lago, to leave Palm Beach because of canceled flights and issues with that to get to New York City. And so it was, I made it just barely to Steve Hilton's show in New York that night. It was just really, I feel for everyone who has to fly like me because it's a first world problem, but it's exhausting. So, I mean, I'm pretty exhausted right now. I didn't sleep much last night, but I couldn't stop thinking about like, the differences in our lives. You know what I mean? I live in San Antonio, Texas, right? And the outside of San Antonio, Texas. And I have a great life. I love my life. I love my home. My daughter goes to public school here, and I think it's a great public school. I live in a really nice community. I feel very blessed. I've worked hard my whole life. My husband too, in the military, finally retired. But I feel like it's pretty normal. I mean, I don't want to say normal because when I grew up, I thought normal was my little house, in not too great of a neighborhood in California. My mom worked in a factory, and we had a house that was roughly around 1,100 square feet, if that. And I think that was when we expanded it. Honestly, I swear to you. My mom was so excited about expanding that house. I'll never forget her. The excitement when she got the money to push out a little bit and have the house a little bit bigger. But so everybody has their own, cross to bear, everything to carry. But I was like at Mar-a-Lago, and I walked, through Palm Beach, and I was looking at these like massive, beautiful yachts. I even got to go on one of them, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. And, talk to people, real successful people who are, some of them are donors, I guess, for the, future president and, for the upcoming presidential elections. And there were these amazing, dinners and beautiful food. So I felt very blessed that I could even just be a part of that for just a little bit. And of course, the president spoke, and it was amazing. It was wonderful to hear him. And I know it's been very tough. And look, it's going to be a tough next 2 years for everyone. And I think if the Republican Party can't unify, if the GOP can't find a way to unify, it's going to be very dangerous for all of us, for all of you, for me, for our future. Look what we're dealing with now. Inflation through the roof, Ukraine, China at our doorstep. I mean, we shouldn't be in these situations. Fentanyl killing our children and our citizens. We should not be here. And we really need to start connecting and unifying and working together, because believe you me, the leftists are. They really are. But there were, and I could feel that. I could feel that everyone kind of got that idea that's something that everybody was talking about. So hopefully it's something that will change, that the Republican Party will say, hey, look, we got to do this. We have got to find a way to unify on issues that are important to all of us. Human trafficking, the border, inflation, our economy, bringing jobs back to America, nearshoring. I want to have Representative Mark Green on here to talk about nearshoring so he could tell you about how important that is about bringing jobs back to the Western Hemisphere. And then there was the funny stuff, okay, I'm not even going to say I can't wear Coco Chanel, I can't afford it. I just can't afford it. It's beautiful. I think it's gorgeous, and just, these amazing shoes and handbags and, you know, all of these luxurious things that people who have worked very hard for can afford. So it's kind of like you feel a little bit like a fish out of water sometimes. I'm like standing there and I love it. I don't feel terrible, but there were just certain things, you know, things that I didn't even know about. For example, I didn't know about the black crab. They said it's because it had the black stripe around its claw. So maybe you guys can fill me in on this, but I've never had this before. And apparently it's very expensive. But I was eating the crab, right? I was eating the crab at someone's, you know, had invited me to a party and I was eating the crab. And then I was like, oh, it's delicious. And they're like, oh, this crab is, you know, spectacular. You can only get this crab at a certain time of the year. There's not much of it. And they actually have to take the crab leg off and then throw the rest of the crab into, okay, now PETA's going to come after me, right? Right, guys? PETA's going to come after me. They're going to have to throw the black crab. They have to throw it back into the water because they can't take the whole thing because there aren't a lot of them and it's only at a particular time of the year. You know, finally, when they told me that, in my mind, I'm picturing all these poor, like, black crabs running around the water with, you know, missing a leg or missing a claw running around. I just couldn't eat any more crab. I was like, I'm good. I'm not going to have another bite of the crab because I just tasted it. It's fine. I'm good. I don't want to know about, you know, these crabs running around with just one claw. Sounds kind of weird to me. I don't know if they grow another one. I don't know what happens, but I just thought I'd let you know that any of us can feel like we don't fit in sometimes, and sometimes we just don't. But I had fun, and I am really rooting for the conservative movement in the next 2 years, for us to get to a place where we put someone into office. Now, I don't know who you're thinking of. It could be President Trump. It could be Ron DeSantis. It could be somebody else. It could be somebody else. We don't know what's going to happen between here and there. But what I do know is that we cannot afford to have someone like President Biden. We cannot afford to have somebody with the same principles as New York Governor Kathy Hochul, who is vetoing a bill to fight the deadly fentanyl scourge. She is literally vetoing a bill that would make a task force to help fight fentanyl. It is making the drug cartels hundreds of billions of dollars. It is killing our children, and it is irregular warfare by the Chinese Communist Party that literally is supplying the precursor chemicals to the Mexican cartels so that they can manufacture the fentanyl, ship it to the United States, put it in the counterfeit pills, and kill our families. Why? Why would she veto this bill? Well, let me read this to you just a little bit so you can understand what's going on. This is from the New York Post. With the deadly crisis of fentanyl-related overdose deaths fast becoming a scourge in U.S., New York Governor Kathy Hochul has vetoed a bipartisan bill aimed at fighting the problem. The measure, unanimously approved by both the state assembly and the Senate in the spring, but left in the Democratic governor's drawers as she ran for election. She held on to it. She didn't want anybody to know she was going to vote against that. Would create a 16-member fentanyl abuse and overdose prevention task force to consult with experts and issue a report within a year to bolster New York's efforts to address the addictive. But I don't even want to say addictive anymore. This is where I think a lot of the media is getting it wrong. Not everybody who's taking these tablets are addicts. Remember, these are coming in counterfeit pills. These are poisoning our citizens, these pills. They look like Adderall. They look like Percocet. They look like Oxycontin. They look like anything you can imagine. Now they have them where they look like candy. Why? The Chinese government is well aware. The Chinese Communist Party is well aware of what is going on, and they do it anyways. And nobody in this government, by the way, the Biden administration, does anything to stop it either. Our border is wide open. The heroes here are our law enforcement officials that are doing everything they can to fight this with limited resources on our streets. Is Governor Kathy Hochul going to go to the next funeral of a child that dies because they took one of these counterfeit pills and thought they were taking an Adderall? Is she going to go there and explain to the families why she didn't pass this, why she vetoed this bill? Right? Staten Island District Attorney Mike McMahon and lawmakers ripped Hochul on Wednesday for spiking the legislation. Frustrated and confused why Governor Hochul vetoed this bill, more New Yorkers are dying from overdose than ever, or poisonings. Let's say that again, poisonings. This bill would have brought stakeholders together to implement real solutions. Tweeted McMahon, who, by the way, is a Democrat and is the first vice president of New York State's District Attorneys Association. He knows what he's talking about. Hochul said in a series of veto messages last week, said that the fentanyl fighting bill was one of 39 measures that would have created task forces and commissions costing about $40 million that was not accounted for in the state budget. That was her answer. $40 million. They waste that money daily in New York. She should be ashamed of herself, but guess what? She doesn't even care. I can't even believe that New Yorkers put her back in office. Can you imagine if it would have been Governor Lee Zeldin? Could you imagine what he would have done? He would have fought for our families and for our children. This is why people are fleeing New York, leaving New York. I was in New York on Sunday. I was talking to one of the drivers, and he was telling me, he said a lot of people have left New York. There's a lot of homes for sale in the city. They aren't getting sold. People don't want to be there anymore. And those that are there, they put Hochul back into office. Okay, before I get any further with the show and I talk to you about Beijing, I talk to you about the fact that they, once again, the Chinese Communist Party is using and utilizing the stupidity of the Democrats and people in our own government, I want to talk to you about someone who is doing something for America by selling American products. And that's Mike Lindell. I love him. I love his towel sets. I love his sheets. I love everything about Mike Lindell's My Pillow. And you guys should too, because right now, Christmas is around the corner, right? You could get a 6-piece towel set, regularly $89.98. Now you get it for $39.98. That is the big special here. That is what Mike Lindell and I have worked out. We've worked this out right now. 6-piece towel set, $89.98, now only $39.98. And by the way, it's a 60-day money-back guarantee extended. So if you buy anything, the towel sets, by December 25th on Christmas Day, if you buy them by then, you will have a 60-day money-back guarantee extended through March 1st, 2023. You can't beat it, guys. For a limited time, get the MyPillow 6-piece towel set regularly $89.98 for only $39.98 at mypillow.com/Carter with promo code Carter. There you'll find deep discounts on all MyPillow products and get your 6-piece MyPillow towel set for only $39.98. Shop mypillow.com/Carter, promo code Carter. That's mypillow.com/Carter. So who wants to talk about how the Chinese Communist Party is literally walking all over us, stealing our intellectual property, buying our agricultural property? We talk about that in the Dark Wars pod. Putting their technology into our most top secret classified areas, like in Montana around the ICBM nukes, and addicting our children to TikTok. And we're going to be talking a little bit about what Christopher Wray, our so-called director of the FBI, had to say about that, because I have a bone to pick with the FBI. I have a bone to pick with him. And I'll play you the clip from Steve Hilton as we come to the end of the show and what I said to him. But I want you to think about what the Chinese are doing. It is irregular warfare against the United States. That is why they are flooding our country with fentanyl. That is why they are buying our property. That is why the Chinese government purposefully buys property around some of our most top secret classified installations in the United States. And it's incredible that our government has allowed them to do this. They just bypass all kinds of security measures. Listen to this. This is the headline from the Free Beacon. Meet the Beijing aligned group that branded a Republican's tough on China rhetoric racist. Remember that with the COVID? Oh, they're racist. Oh, they're racist. That was always the time. That was all coming from China, by the way. The Chinese American nonprofit that branded a Republican Congresswoman's tough on China campaign as racist has extensive ties to Chinese Communist Party influence groups and Beijing-backed companies. This is a nonprofit, guys. This is a nonprofit. Remember when the IRS was going after the Tea Party? This is crazy. We also, by the way, have, I don't know if you know this, but we have dozens of Chinese police stations in the United States with Chinese communist police officers manning the helm to monitor their citizens here. I swear to you, President Biden is in their pocket. I'm telling you, the real Manchurian candidate and his puppet master are in the White House right now. These are facts. These are facts. Listen to this. In late October, with 2022 midterms just 2 weeks away, the Committee of 100, a nonprofit that works to advance U.S.-China relations, issued a statement condemning China-related campaign ads from California Republican Michelle Steele. Those ads, which the committee said included, listen to this, racist attacks that encourage anti-Asian hate and violence, criticized Democrat challenger Jay Chen's past support for the Confucius Classroom program, a CCP. It was totally right. A CCP-run initiative that provides American K through 12 schools with Beijing-backed teachers and curriculum materials. By the way, they are everywhere. This Confucius school, they're in Central America, they're in South America, and we allow this to happen. Would Beijing allow us to do that? Put a democratic school in the middle of Beijing and throughout their provinces? No way. Within days of its release, NPR, the Los Angeles Times, and the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee used the statement made by them to declare that the Asian American community had turned on Steele. With the Times, here's our media. This is the media we're supposed to trust. The only media that most people see. And they just believe that what they're saying is true. So you got the Los Angeles Times, NPR, describing the Committee of 100 as a New York-based nonprofit led by prominent Chinese Americans. It represents Chinese Americans. It was all deception. It was all deception. Let me just give you one example, and you guys can read this story on the Free Beacon. Committee member Ronnie Chan, for example, serves on the governing board of the China-United States Exchange Foundation, a CCP-funded Chinese foreign agent whose founder, billionaire Chinese national Teng Chi-hua, is a vice chairman of the CCP advisory board. I want you to think about that. Fellow member Yu Meng, meanwhile, for 3 years worked as a top officer at the Chinese government-controlled State Administration of Foreign Exchange, a job that China's Thousand Talents program, which the FBI says engages in non-traditional espionage against the United States. President Xi has us in the palm of his hands. And if we don't put the right people into office, if we don't demand that our news agencies do their job, just like the Free Beacon did, if we don't demand that, then we are going to get what we deserve. It's only up to you and I. We cannot allow this to happen. We have to speak up. We have to pay attention to what's happening around us. We can't afford this. We really can't afford this, you guys. We really are going to be at the end in a situation that we may not be able to salvage our nation from. That terrifies me. Look at what the Chinese did with COVID-19. Look at what we allowed to happen with the Wuhan laboratory, with Dr. Fauci, who somehow approved gain of function studies and then was in charge of telling us what we can and cannot do in our own country with regard to COVID. We literally adopted Chinese tactics. I want you to think about that. Our government took away our civil rights and adopted Chinese tactics without ever once showing us or proving to us why they needed to do so, why they took these Emergency Powers Act. They only did it through fear. We allowed them to do it because we were all afraid, because some of us were going to lose our jobs, because they told us it was going to kill everyone. We were going to kill our grandparents. It was all lies. And now China is locking down its own people. And look what the Chinese people are rising up. We're going to have Gordon Chang on this podcast coming up soon. Not on this one, but on a future podcast. Probably in the next 2 podcasts he'll be on. And I want Gordon Chang to explain to you what and how the Chinese operate. It is just that important for you to understand. I want to talk to you about what I believe is probably the biggest internal threat to our nation. And it, in a weird way, I have to believe that some of these people from our intelligence community just believe in their hearts that they think they know better than all of us, that they think they have to manipulate the system for us to make our nation, I don't know what they're thinking. Honestly, I shouldn't put words in their mouth. They came out, this is John Brennan, former head of the CIA. Michael J. Morrell worked with the CIA, worked with the DOD. General Michael Hayden was one of them. He was with the NSA and then went on to the CIA. I interviewed him multiple times. I've interviewed John Brennan. I have not interviewed Morrell, but I've interviewed others. And I never would have imagined in my life the kind of interference that these senior officials that have so much at stake, right? We put them in charge of our most classified agencies. These are the agencies that are supposed to be protecting our national security, not working against us. But they were part of a group of 51, including James Clapper, by the way, head of the DNI, of 51 intelligence personnel that issued a letter, literally issued a letter weeks before the 2020 election, basically saying that Hunter Biden's laptop stories that were actually written by Miranda Devine and others at the New York Post, and I think she's brilliant, were Russian disinformation. In fact, they influenced, and yes, they did influence. They influenced Twitter. They influenced our media, our social media, our media in general, our mainstream media, whatever you want to call it, so that the American people would be unaware or question the stories that the New York Post was writing based on a laptop that had been verified to be Hunter Biden's. And I knew it was real. I was talking to people. I know Rudy Giuliani. I know Bernard Kerik. I know all the people that were in that circumference of that laptop. And that laptop story was real. But here, they decided weeks before the election to destroy the story. And they did so with the assistance of James Baker. I don't know if you guys remember who James Baker was as well, but James Baker was the former general counsel for the FBI. I had originally broken the story on James Baker. This is way back when, maybe 2017 or so. We had been looking into it, but originally broke the story that he was under criminal investigation. I was the first person to write that story. Of course, they all got away with it. But guess where James Baker went to work? He went to go work for Twitter. After he was so-called removed from the FBI, he went to go work for Twitter. And while he was at Twitter, anyone who put up stories. I mean, he was directly involved in this. Not even the CEO at Jack was directly involved in this, according to Twitter. But he was directly involved in shutting down accounts that retweeted the Hunter Biden laptop story. I remember having those like warnings on mine when we put them out there. And there were people that literally lost their accounts. Kayleigh McEnany was shut down too. I mean, during that time. Miranda Devine, the New York Post. They signed an open letter basically telling the world, oh, even Leon Panetta. That's right. And I had met Leon Panetta too. All of these people, okay, all of these people lied to you. They lied to you. And you paid them. I paid them. That is our taxpayer dollars at work, and they are working against us. They literally believe that they are smarter than you. I sent them a tweet. Directly to John Brennan, Michael J. Morrell, General Hayden. Please follow me on Twitter if you haven't yet, but at Sarah Carter DC. And since Elon Musk has taken over, I have literally amassed over 100,000 more people. I'm almost at 1.5 million. They were holding me back, actually more than 100,000. They were literally keeping me from growing. I mean, I was stagnant. Nobody could see my tweets either. I was literally shadow banned. This is just so insane. I've got to tell you this because this is the reason why that Elon Musk, sunlight is the greatest disinfectant, guys, the greatest disinfectant. But this is the reason why Elon Musk gave journalist Matt Taibbi the internal Twitter emails and had him post it. And by the way, I know Matt Taibbi. I've met him a couple of times, and I think he's brilliant. He is a good writer. I don't always agree with him on everything, but he is a brilliant journalist, and he is a good writer. And now the left, he used to be the darling of the left. Now the left is going after him, much like they did Glenn Greenwald. Much like they did Glenn Greenwald, all because he is telling the truth. I'm telling you, the truth is the most important thing. And people will come after you, and they will, those that don't want the truth out, they will throw fits. They will be angry. They will come after you. They will fire you. They will come after your family, but they cannot take away the truth. The truth is always the truth, and it eventually comes out, and they are eventually exposed. Here's the clincher, though. Who is going to pay the price for that? I mean, is the DOJ going to, get involved? Are they going to, is Congress going to conduct an investigation? I don't know. And by the way, director Christopher Wray, and I'm going to play this clip.
Sunlight is the greatest disinfectant, and that's what Elon Musk did, and he exposed them. But this is also really the greatest threat to our republic. They have literally taken it upon themselves to run our nation almost as if it's a fascist state, with the big tech companies working with the government and the Democrats. And by the way, Christopher Wray, completely agree with you on this. The FBI director had the gall this week to say TikTok is dangerous. Yes, I believe it's dangerous because now the Chinese Communist Party can control the narrative. Well, what does he think the United States government was doing when people in the intelligence community, the FBI, the DNI, all of them were working in collusion with the Democrats to target a U.S. president? That's literally a weapon of war.
That is the hypocrisy of Washington, D.C. That is Christopher Wray's hypocrisy. If we don't clean up our own home, if we don't clean up our own country, our own house, it won't even matter in the end, guys. Because the communists, our adversaries, everyone is watching us. When you destroy the foundation, when you destroy the principles that make your nation great, it's simple common sense. That is when your enemy finds you at your weakest, and that is when your enemy takes advantage. We've got to get back to cleaning up our own house. to putting people in office that are worthy of being there. And that requires all of us. We're the boss. It's not easy being the boss, right? We're the bosses. We have got to work together. Moms out there, fight for your children. Fight to ensure that they are not poisoned by fentanyl or by these weird, crazy, transgendered ideas that they're trying to shove down our kids' throats in elementary school, or by the liars in our own government who are literally taking our country and turning it upside down. Remember, you're the one that's in charge. You're the one that will make a difference. You're the person that goes to school and says, you know what is my kid learning? No, thank you. I am going to fight this at the next PTA meeting, and my son is not doing this homework. You know what? My kid knows she's a girl, knows he's a boy. You don't need to tell them that they might be confused. Get out of my family's business. We need to start going back to church. We need to start caring about one another. And as conservatives, we need to start unifying. That's what I talked about at the top of the show. That is what I truly believe. Remember, we're not going to agree with everyone, and I hope we never do. Because that's what separates the good from the bad, right? I don't need to agree with everybody, but what I do need to do is find those people out there that agree with me. We're on the same page and work together, not work against each other, but work together to save this beautiful, precious nation that has given so much to each and every one of us. I love y'all. Pray for y'all. Follow me on Twitter at Sara Carter DC, on Instagram at SCarterDC, and on Truth at Sara Carter Official. God bless you. God bless our great nation, and God bless the great state of Texas.